Welcome to The Screen Queen, the show where I'll be talking about your favorite show or your favorite movie. You'll just have to find out what you're about to know. This is your Screen Queen, your host, Samantha Parrish. Hello and welcome back to The Screen Queen. I am your lean, mean, movie-talking machine. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Thank you for coming back and getting to learn more about movies, because I'm happy to share everything I know about movies, and everything else I begin to learn, this just keeps going, so I really am a lean, mean, movie-talking machine. Isn't that wonderful? Did you know that this movie, In the Line of Fire, is the reason why the Secret Service got involved to share their information about how to write a Secret Service agent? Well, now you do, and now we're about to talk about it. In the Line of Fire was released in 1993 and was directed by Wolfgang Petersen and stars the cowboy, the detective, who's basically been a part of every single decade of film, Clint Eastwood. Now, before I get into talking about this movie, there's something you have to know. This movie is on my favorite movie list. That's a hard list to get on. And I never would think that a movie like this would be on my list, because I have a very particular palette of movies. And sometimes when it comes to movies that range in something along the lines of political espionage or political thrillers, it's kind of hard to follow. But with a movie like In the Line of Fire, you don't have to know about politics to enjoy this movie. It's a pretty self-explanatory movie. At the same time, it's not trying to make you feel stupid for what you don't know. It tells you everything very plainly. It doesn't make you feel like a 2-year-old that having to have things handed to you. It's an extremely smart movie. And I think it really helps for the fact that the Secret Service gave their information about how to write a movie that involves Secret Service agents. If you really think about it, before 1993, when you had Secret Service characters, they weren't really given the profession. They were just there, helping the president, protecting the president. Oftentimes, you might have a former Secret Service agent character, and they talk about how they're protecting Reagan, or they're protecting Kennedy. Kennedy comes up a lot, and that's something I'll mention later on in this episode regarding the plot. This is honestly like a film that everyone has to watch. And I'm not just saying it because I just said that it's one of my favorite movies. I wish that this movie got a lot more credit for the fact that it went ahead of its time to make something to show what the Secret Service really does. It covers a lot of ground. It's not just one of those race against time thriller movies of trying to stop an assassin from getting the president. We've had movies like that before, but this isn't really a movie like that. It has a level of intelligence. And it covers not just the ground of what it's like to be a Secret Service agent, but many other topics that will be discussed further in this episode. Now, before I get into really talking about this film, I do want to give a heads up that I am not going to be spoiling this movie. And this is a future reference for any of the episodes on The Screen Queen, is I will let you know if I'm going to spoil this movie. I do not want to deprive the experience of someone going to go watch something that they may want, but they need just a little bit more information than what IMDb will give someone, and that's really what I want to do for this show. So now you don't have to worry about maybe wondering, oh great, when am I supposed to stop the episode before Sammy gives it away? I'm not going to give it away. I might give away one or two pieces that's integral to the intrigue, but not to spoil it for you. So now that that point has been addressed, I want to explain to you what In the Line of Fire is about. It is about a Secret Service agent that has to protect the president. Except it's a brilliant cat and mouse game. Oftentimes when you do see assassination plots in movies, they kind of play it cliched. It's the whole, I want money, I want power, I want this, I want that. They did a wonderful job making the villain of this movie. The dynamic between Clint Eastwood's character Frank Horrigan facing off against John Malkovich's Mitch Leary is a perfect cat and mouse game. This is what sets this movie apart from other political movies that are driven by protecting the president, is that this feels like it has a lot more psychological value to it. Most times you just put in a whole, oh, like you're not even given a reason, and if it is, it's a very generic reason, or you're not really given. This could be a very good psychological evaluation movie. And the thing I appreciate the most is John Malkovich being so dedicated to the role that he cut off contact from a lot of people to get that mentality of what it's like to go through something in your life and your mind becomes molded into something else, and then feeling that you have to take it out on the president. He's a villain that makes sense, but he also makes critical nonsense. And I mean that in the way that he is so messed up, the fact that he believes it's valid that he should kill the leader. And of course, that's not going to happen because you have the Secret Service that are going to protect the president for their lives. That's why the movie is called In the Line of Fire. But what makes this movie on another level is the fact that Clint Eastwood's character, Frank Horrigan, had a problem occur, a failure that wasn't his fault. There's a bit of a twist in time in this movie that they have with Frank, that he was there to protect President Kennedy, and then it was too late and he was assassinated. So they did this twist in time that adds more to his character as to why it's integral for him that he can't lose. He already lost one president, he's not going to lose another. This is his ultimate test. There are many jabs in the movie about his age, which, a little side note, that's something I found out, is Frank Horrigan's supposed to be in his 50s. Clint was at the age of 63 when he did that movie. That man was getting to be a dinosaur. Except he insisted on doing a lot of stunts himself that he could do, and I'm just sitting there like, damn. If the 63-year-old Clint Eastwood can do what the 27-year-old Samantha Parrish can't do, then there's a problem there that I gotta fix. But keep that in mind if you've ever watched the movie or you haven't seen the movie. The man's doing a lot for this film. I don't know the extent of his stunts, but he put in a lot of work. I think he really looked whipped in that movie. I don't think that's acting. I think he's really just tired. I think Dirty Harry finally caught up with him. Okay, now that you have that random snippet of trivia, we can move on in this episode. You do know. And I actually did find out what the mandatory retirement age is for a Secret Service agent. Their cutoff age is at 52. Clint is at the age of 62 in that movie. He's pushing it in this film with the whole age thing. So I'm sure the movie, working with the Secret Service agent, were just like, hey, like, Clint's 62 years old. Can you work with us? Is that okay? And the Secret Service basically just shrugged and went, all right, it's all good. Just don't do it again. I'm like, all right, cool. I don't know if that's where that conversation happened, but that's like the Cliff Notes version of it. With this very intense, integral, and critical threat to the president, he's doing what he can, but this isn't just like being a field agent or doing certain undercover work. This is unlike anything that he's ever faced. He can face it. He knows what to do, but it's throughout the film, it's pissing him off constantly that this man has such a warped mind. You can see it in his character that disgusts him of the stuff that Mitch Leary says about the president and feeling validated and saying that they're the same. A lot of the stuff that Mitch Leary's character, it sounds something that you would definitely hear in someone that has a very warped perspective of reality. And I'm not going to spoil it for you as to why Mitch Leary is the way he is. I will not give that away for you. That is entirely up to you to find out. with the way their characters go, it makes a perfect cat and mouse game. It's not just two old guys that are in different sides of the law. It's a battle of the minds, and I love that in a movie. And I love a good face-off. And this is probably one of the face-offs that you'll see in cinema history that is the most underrated, where it doesn't have to go over the top or underwhelming. It's just perfect. And it fits in this dynamic of good versus evil to protect the well-being of the president. There is one other part of this movie that I want to talk about that I didn't really notice until about the upteenth time I saw this film, because honestly, I've lost track how many times I've watched this movie. It covers that ground about being a Secret Service agent and what you have to do, but it also covers another very important topic, and it's, honestly, I think this film needs to be used as an example for what I'm about to say that it talks about, is PTSD. We are now in a state of our nation where we are recognizing PTSD more, no matter how it happens, because all trauma is valid. No matter what happens to you, if you're on the battlefield or you had an abusive relationship with anybody, it's still something that needs to be dealt with. And to a degree, Frank Horrigan does have PTSD. You can analyze it however you want to. And there's another character that suffers from it. And this is a bit of a tiny spoiler, but it doesn't give away the entirety of the movie. Frank Horrigan has a partner named Al. And early in the movie, Al's working a job and it messes with his mind. And throughout the movie, he's trying to cope with it. And there's a line that he says, I feel it encapsulates what it feels like when you're trying to tell someone that you're trying to get help, but what's happening isn't working. It's like when someone tells you, we'll get help. It's like, well, what do you think I'm doing? And when Al is confronted about the fact that he should go to therapy, he says, I've tried all of them. I try every bit I can. And that's so honest. Therapy is not a one-size-fits-all, especially where you need to find someone that's going to be able to help you get through what the fuck you've gone through. That's just it's honestly a nice relief to see something like that in a movie. Like I've been saying in this episode, that this movie packs so much, but it doesn't feel like it's going too far, and it's not cramming so much stuff. I'm glad that it covers something as serious PTSD. Especially for a movie that had the first opportunity to get the Secret Service involved with the production of this movie to make sure everything was valid. I can't tell you for sure if the Secret Service did flat out say, hey, we suffer from PTSD and sometimes it's hard. I can't tell you that. I think it wouldn't be complete without it. People that put their lives in the line are bound to have a lot of mental anguish for what they have to cope with. There's a lot of stuff that I will never be able to understand. I've never been a Secret Service agent. I've never been a soldier. I've never been a cop. But I 100% understand that they need help for what they go through. It brings the movie to another level for me that makes me appreciate it that much more. Especially for someone like me that survived trauma. It's nice to know that help is addressed in a way that it's hard to talk about. Another thing that is very interesting about this film is this is one of many films upon creating female characters for crime movies, thriller movies, is that they wanted to address any female operatives that they could to endorse getting a lot of women to apply for the Secret Service, or certain government jobs in general, or procedural jobs. Like, this is a one-off example, but Silence of the Lambs was really hoping that there would be more female recruits by having Clarice Starling as the character for the film, instead of Will Graham. Just hoping, like, well, if we have Clarice there, that might help the chances of getting more female FBI agents. And within the Line of Fire, there is a female Secret Service agent named Lily Raines. And I love the fact that her character doesn't serve as the eye candy, even though I will say it. Renee Russo is a goddess, and I hope no one ever tries to disprove that. She is aged fine like wine, and I love it so, so very much. Her casting didn't do something that was already there. I love the fact that it kind of made a bit of an honorable factor to the amount of female Secret Service agents that was in the movie, so you didn't really have to look at this film as, oh, look at what women can do. It's like, hey, we're doing a pretty good job. Look at that shit. I actually had to look it up, and I was able to find a New York Times article from July 6th, 1993, and it says here, of the service's 2,000 agents, about 190 of them are women. And with Lily Raines' characterization, she is someone that doesn't get way over her head. She doesn't have this like sexist way about her where she's like, look at me, I can do a man's job. She's there to protect the president. That's her main thing, and that's the one thing her character goes on about is we have to do what we can to protect the president. She can bite back with the big boys, but she's not going to act like an ass about it, and I love the fact that she does not feel undermined, and she doesn't get offended either, but she has a very witty way of biting back at someone in some of the scenes that she has with Clint Eastwood or many of the other male characters. She's just like, you can joke all you want, but I'm here, and it's going to be that way. There are some uncomfortable moments in some films where there is a woman who is undermined for her job, and it's uncomfortable seeing how she has to work that so hard to be able to be noticed and to have to tell someone, hey, I'm here to do a job just like you. Get over it and quit bullying me and be a big boy or be a bigger person about it. I like how that is virtually non-existent in this movie. It makes it that much more enjoyable and comfortable knowing you don't have to worry about if this is one of those films where they do something that doesn't make it age gracefully. Moments like that with Lily Raines makes this movie timeless. So I want to go back a little bit and talk about Mitch Leary, the villain. Mitch Leary's character is one of the characters I study when it comes to making villains, for the fact that I've mentioned throughout this episode that there are very significant pieces of psychological information. I can't tell you for sure if the characterization of Mitch Leary is based off of former people that the Secret Service agents have encountered. It wouldn't surprise me if it is, with the way that this worked, of someone that is very methodical and getting to a degree of insane that doesn't warrant that they can't underestimate him. He's a very unpredictable character. Once you got him figured out, you got to go back to the drawing board. It takes these characters a long time to figure out who they're messing with. He does all these games, these nicknames. He makes nods to some of the former assassinators in history that have assassinated presidents. He's a very heavy character, but he doesn't feel like a very uncomfortable character. Oftentimes when you do have a villain, and it's no secret that most villains do come from real-life people. I can't tell you for sure who Mitch Leary is based off of in terms of villain, like where he originated from of a certain real person. Having that degree of realism of what he's talking about what he's been through, that does sound like something that you would hear someone say in certain criminal interviews when they ask, why the hell did you do what you did? I think you would stumble across that. If you ever get the chance to look at Mitch Leary's dialogue and then compare it to something you'd see in a crime show of your choice, it's gonna sound pretty spot on, for the fact that they had to validate their very insane reasons. And it sounds scary how almost sophisticated it sounds. There's a bizarre level of strange sophistication to Mitch Leary's character that he has this way that he holds himself when he has to, and he talks so eloquently and sociopathically that you can tell that he's fooling other people, but the fact that it sounds so normal. He sounds very calm, but when he doesn't sound calm, it's downright scary. There's a line he says in the movie that still gives me the chills for the fact that it does make sense. I can't give this part of the movie away for you. When he does reveal more parts about himself to Frank in the phone calls that they have, he says, "I don't even remember who I was before they sank their claws into me." That line right there still just... it's heavy. It's very heavy. You sort of do see his reasoning, despite the fact that it's still so messed up. Of all the villains that I've ever seen in movies, I can name off some of my favorite villains, like Hans Gruber from Die Hard, Hannibal Lecter from The Silence of the Lambs. But Mitch Leary isn't on any villain lists. Not that I want to endorse the bad guy, but like I've been saying in this episode, there are certain factors of his character that I feel does fit with other certain criterias of movies for it to be talked about more. I wish that Mitch Leary's character was a part of psychological villains and more case studies. There are certain films that are used for educational purposes, and damn, I'm gonna have to start some kind of petition to get In the Line of Fire in there to show what something looks like of that degree, or even stretch to say this is a good example of what that looks like. It does often make me wonder with the fact that the Secret Service cooperated with this movie, and I don't know for sure how much they had in the creation of Mitch Leary's character, but I do wonder if they do use this movie when they're training the recruits for the Secret Service, if they pull up the clips from In the Line of Fire and show someone this dialect and this demeanor. It's an idea that pops in my head, but I do wonder if this is what they do. I mean, I can't see the Secret Service doing a film where they cooperated and then can't use the film that they 100% validated as 100% authentic protocol, as well as what would happen with a certain criminal or critical threat to have to face. Even though this movie had a major benefit of having the contribution of the Secret Service, I think it immensely helped for the fact that they filmed this movie primarily around the Bill Clinton elections, which I find to be a bit funny considering many other films have military or police officers to verify to the public, this is a movie that we're filming, don't be alarmed. But for the fact that the Secret Service was there for a lot of this film's production, to get to a level to have someone in that field work to be involved, knowing you can have everyone involved and don't have to worry about having to explain things. The Secret Service is just there. So all they had to do was just show up and tell Wolfgang Peterson, hey, shoot this, film this, go over there, go from this angle, go from that angle. It was kind of funny that they basically had to direct the director. I don't know entirely if that how the working relationship was between the director and some of the Secret Service agents, but I imagine it had to have been pretty good considering we got a pretty spot-on film. It is very interesting to go through the special feature segments. I don't know if this is available on YouTube, but you do see how they used CGI to basically copy and paste Clint from a green screen to what you see as a Bill Clinton rally. So what you're seeing in the movie is actually history. You see a Bill Clinton rally, which is pretty interesting. And I do have another very interesting history facts that is a bit controversial that had people a bit divided about the movie. Now, I've mentioned earlier that this movie has a twist in time, that the character of Frank Horrigan was protecting the president and then the assassination happened, and he is racked with guilt over the fact that he couldn't protect the president who was right in front of him. I couldn't really see this, but there have people that have confirmed it, that you do see Lee Harvey Oswald in a tiny speck of this archival footage that they did. I can't really fault the CGI animators for this movie, since they had the toughest job of using footage from Clint Eastwood back in his Dirty Harry days and make him look seamlessly placed into the Kennedy footage to make it look like Frank Horrigan was the Secret Service agent behind Kennedy on the unfortunate day of his assassination. So they're so busy trying to get all the stuff done, you can't fault the fact that they missed something like that that's a tiny little speck. They did a damn impressive good job. But it is quite weird that you basically see history all right there with Kennedy and Lee Harvey Oswald. I've mentioned the historical aspects of this film. I've mentioned the psychological aspects of this film. I truly believe this is a film that people need to watch at least once in their life. I hate to be one of those people that says that you need to watch something, but this isn't one of those films that it is required to watch because of its placement in society or what we're currently into. It has a lot to do with history. There are so many variables and factors and layers to this film that makes it feel timeless. It makes it feel educational. It makes it feel valid. It makes it feel entertaining, interesting. It's so many different things all at once. This is the film that the Secret Service helped with. That never happened before. This was literally history in the making, while also talking about the history of Secret Service agents, talking about other parts of history like I just mentioned with Kennedy and everything. This is truly a historical film. And if you want to know more about something like the Secret Service or anything else, you gotta watch it In the Line of Fire. It's worth every minute. Whew, that was a lot to talk about. I ended up finding out a lot more about one of my favorite movies than I thought I was going to find. I really thought that I knew everything about this film, and I really enjoyed being able to learn extra factors and trivia to this film, and I'm happy that I got to be able to share it with you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. You have no idea how happy it makes me. I hope that you can literally hear the smile on my face that I got the opportunity to talk about one of my favorite films. And there will be more opportunities for me to talk about the other favorite films of mine. And now we're getting to the point of the episode where I get to choose what the next episode is going to be. If you are new here, I have a system where I pick a random piece of paper out of a bowl, and that determines what the next episode's going to be. I just think it's fun, keeps it interesting, so let's see. What's it going to be? I gotta mix it up real good. I can't be a cheater, and I always put new things in here, so I never know what I'm gonna get. Okay, what do I got here? What do I got? Oh my gosh, this is a long one. Oh my goodness. Oh my. Here we go. I'm already getting ideas for this episode. The next episode on The Screen Queen is going to be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Oh, yay. I got some stories about that movie, and I find it ironic considering that movie is a lot of stories into one. Oh, that's going to be a fun episode. Well, my fellow audience, thank you so much for listening. And remember, choose how you want to be entertained. If you want to watch that movie a million times, you watch that movie a million times. As long as you enjoy it, why the hell does it matter to someone else as long as that movie makes you happy? Anyway, you take care, be safe out there, and I'll be back with another episode. This is your Screen Queen, signing off. Bye-bye!